Hey, it's me, Vicky Marie. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are in this crazy world we're living in. So, in this video, we're going to talk about an unsolved case from the UK, a case from 2001 that no one has ever been held accountable for this man, this young man, very young man's death. So this man is Stuart Lubbock. And Stuart was a young, I think he was 20, certainly in his early 20s, a young man who was in a bar, in a pub, and a famous man came in that pub, a man called Michael Barrymore, who was very, very famous in the UK at the time, a very famous comedian. You'll see throughout this video, you cannot underestimate how famous this man was at the time. He was extremely famous. He was all over the telly. He was like the golden boy of the telly. He was winning awards. He was on every programme going. And anyway, he came into this pub where Stuart Lubbock was with his brother, and somehow, you'll see in the video that we're about to watch, the documentary we're about to watch, he got invited back to Michael Barrymore's house for like an after party. There were only 8 people at this after party in Michael Barrymore's house, and somehow, in some way that has never been to this day been established, Stuart Lubbock that night ended up in Michael Barrymore's swimming pool and died. And it's still not really clear the reason that he died. That again we're going to look at throughout the video. And basically the police have said that they feel that somebody who was there at that party is responsible for his death. The inquest into his death, an open verdict was recorded. And basically, really, nothing has changed since then. And Stuart's poor dad, in the meantime, has died without knowing what happened to his son. Now, presumably, he's passed on to the next world, and by now he's been reunited with his son, hopefully, and knows exactly what happened. But the thing is, somebody who was there at that party, if not more than one person that was there at that party, knows exactly what happened to Stuart. But Stuart has never had justice. Meanwhile, Michael Barrymore himself, just a little aside before we start, so he is now 73 years old. It ruined his career completely, and he's made a couple of efforts to sort of get back into the public eye, but it's never really worked. But he's done really well on TikTok. He's got over 3 million followers on TikTok. And something else that I found out about him, for those of you who know this channel, you know that I'm based in Spain. Michael Barrymore came to Spain and tried living in Spain near Barcelona in Sitges, which is like a gay mecca in Spain, and also a sort of swingers paradise. So he tried it, he didn't like it, he went back to the UK, he got homesick, wasn't for him. So let's see, what we're going to do is we're going to watch a documentary that was made about Stuart Lubbock's death, and I'm going to comment on it. And I'm also going to show you one part in it that really took me aback when I was watching it. The similarities between the forensic reports, between the post-mortem reports of Stuart Lubbock and of Nicola Bulley. Now, of course, Nicola Bulley, this is another case, some would say unresolved also. And Nicola Bulley was the 45-year-old mum of 2. Took her children to school, again in the UK, and took her children to school, took her dog Willow for a walk, disappeared, and was found 3 weeks later, deceased in the river. But there were some disturbing things about her post-mortem report. and there were some strange things about her disappearance. Now, we have to say, Nicola's family, they have, let's just put some pictures up of Nicola. Nicola's family have accepted the verdict. There was a verdict in her inquest, which many people would say was wrong, because the verdict wasn't recorded as an open verdict like Stuart's was. It was recorded as accidental death, even though when there was really no proof that it was accidental. There was no proof of anything really in Nicola's case. A lot of strange things, of course. You know, gosh, you could go on and on about all the strange things in Nicola's case. But the main thing, I want to draw the similarities you'll see when we come to look at this documentary in the results of the post-mortem. And yet for some reason with Stuart's post-mortem, it led to the forensic pathologist deciding it should be, you know, that it was probably foul play and it should be an open verdict. Whereas in Nicola's case, even though the same conclusions were came to, Nicola, they said there was no foul play and it was accidental death. I think Nicola's case will always be a mystery to a lot of people, but the important thing to remember about Nicola's case is the family have accepted the verdict. In fact, if anything, the family pushed for the verdict of accidental death. So, you know, at the end of the day, that's the way it is. But yeah, I found this very interesting. My ears pricked up immediately when they started talking in this documentary about things that were similar that had happened to Nicola. Oh, forgot to share. You know, I don't like to share. So now, unfortunately, I'm on the free StreamYard at the moment because, you know, not a good month this month now. So we're, but StreamYard is good, but it's really expensive. I'm going to have to start exploring some other streaming issues. Anyway, hi Daniel, happy Sunday. So hello to you lurkers, hello to everyone watching at home, hello to anyone who comes in the chat as we go along. I've been and ahhing tonight whether to do this as a recording, you know, as a recorded video, or do it as a live, and so I've messed about a bit with the stream. So it'll probably take people a little while to find it, but anyway, here I am. So thank you as always. Thank you all subscribers, people who like my videos, people who support my channel in any way, my members, people who buy Ko-fis, send super chats, etc. Thank you so much. So let's get on with this documentary. Now the documentary, for those who don't know about this, you know, there'll be some of you out there, I presume, who don't know about about Stuart Lubbock. Maybe don't even know who Michael Barrymore is, though I think he was famous not only in Britain, to be honest. You know, he really was a famous person. So what we're going to do is we're going to watch a documentary that was made, Channel 4 documentary, The Body in the Pool, and I'm going to comment on it, and you'll see when we come up to the bit that's got the particular comparisons with Nicola Bulley. Right, I think I'm on it now. Just got to work out how to get it so I can actually see it. So I'm taking this from this channel, which is a YouTube channel, We Are Their Voices. I presume they uploaded it from the Channel 4 documentary. So I just want to give them credit that it's their, it's not their video, it's the Channel 4 documentary, but this is where I'm taking it from. Right, let's see, that's it. Okay, let's go.
You can't expect it, yeah.
Yeah, the ambulance is being turned around now so that it's come back. If there's somebody out there ready, right?
Yeah, they're waiting out on the main road, mate.
Yeah, right.
Fucking hell. I think the geezer's dead, mate.
I think the geezer's dead, mate. So, you know, that's an Essex sort of accent. If anybody watching it wondering where the accent is from, Essex is near London in the south. We've been to Essex quite a few times for different cases that we've covered, haven't we? Geezer is man, another word for man. I mean, you know, you think that people will know that, but, you know, there will be people out there that I know I have Spanish viewers who watch my channel to help with their English. You know, geezer is not like a typical English thing, but this is the 999 call. Let me just say hello to, I know I can see these people have found the, hi David, hi Heather, hi Claire, hi Matthew. Yeah.
This is number 4, Beaumont Park Drive at Roydon. It's Sunday, the 1st of April, 2001. Time approximately 10:35 a.m. This is the home.
I mean, it's an awful tragedy, this poor man. You know, something happened to him. And I do believe somebody knows exactly what happened to him. Maybe Michael Barrymore, maybe not him. But something happened. And, you know, when it came to the autopsy, etc. Anyway, let's watch it and see. But it's quite chilling, isn't it, that even now, 20 odd years later, nobody has been found accountable. But this verdict, this inquest verdict, was open.
Home of Michael Barrymore.
"31-year-old Stuart."
Now, when I looked at this, I thought, God, it's so open there, isn't it? How could, there must have been lights around the pool. How could people not know? So there were 8 people there. How could people not know what happened? This is what, to me, I think all those people know. I really do think they all know. That's so open. There would be lights around the pool, etc. Oh, so did she just say he was 31? I thought he was younger than that, but let's see, how old was he? Yeah, he was 31. Oh, he looked younger. Still young, obviously. I'm not saying, I don't know why I thought he was in his early 20s, but he's not, 31. It just looks so open, doesn't it? To me, anyway. I can't believe that people didn't see what happened. Hi, Admit.
Lubbock was found floating in the swimming pool at Mr. Barrymore's home in Essex. He died soon after.
Detectives are investigating the death, which happened after a party last night at Mr. Barrymore's home in Essex.
As one of Britain's most popular entertainers, Mr. Lubbock's death is sure to throw the media spotlight back on to the life and troubled times of Michael Barrymore.
Now, the thing is, it was chaotic, the house. You could see that there were drugs taken, there was alcohol taken. You know, it was a chaos. It was a party, but only 8 people there. You know, that's like, it wasn't that big a party, you know, that things could happen. I don't know why I sort of had it in my head that there was much more people there, because you could see if a party's full, you know, there could have been 50 people there, and it could have been confusing what happened. But 8 people, how could it be confusing?
There was no sex in that house that night.
Yeah, if you believe that, you believe anything. You know, this is the other thing. I'm sorry, Michael, but, you know, come on. No sex in that house that night. Well, okay, that's what he says. Well, you know, you have to decide if you believe him or not.
There was no orgy that I was aware of.
Right, whatever.
At all.
For Essex Police, the death of Stuart Lubbock remains an unsolved murder.
This is very much still a live investigation. I believe that somebody at that party knows what happened.
100%, probably all of them. Now, just to make it clear, this documentary was done quite a long time ago, but of course, but it's still exactly the same. The case stands exactly the same. It's still, nobody's been held accountable. It's still an open verdict. So it hasn't moved on at all from then.
Completely and utterly a fact.
I just hope they understand that it was just another night that went terribly wrong.
Just another night that went terribly wrong. I don't think that was a very tactful thing to say. It wasn't just another night for Stuart, was it? Do you know what I mean? It was like not just another night at all. So there's talk that, of course, they gave him drugs, that this young man wasn't, you know, he wasn't he just happened to bump into them at the pub and get invited back. He was quite a handsome man. There's no, you know, there's no suspicion that he was, I don't want that to sound like it's a bad thing, but he was, apparently, he was just bowled over by the fact that Michael Barrymore had invited him back to the house. I think we cannot, it's hard to appreciate how famous Michael Barrymore was at the time, you know, and how popular he was. We can't underestimate that. You know, it would have been like, oh my God, you know, if you got invited back to his house, you would be pleased, wouldn't you?
Here we go, late coach party.
Right. Excuse me. Hello. Hiya. Wait. Hey, love. How are you? How you, though? Yeah, where the bleed know you been?
I mean, you know, he was funny. You know, it's hard to watch these programs and not laugh because he literally was funny. And he could get away with anything. He was one of those comedians, wasn't he? He could get away with anything. I mean, you couldn't get away with any of the things that he got away with when he, you know, nowadays, you know, it's a whole different world, isn't it, as far as comedy is concerned. But the other thing is that one thing I think we have to remember about comedians in general, comedians are well known for having very dark sides because sometimes, you know, it's just a psychological fact. A lot of comedians have very, very dark sides. They suffer from depression. You know, humour is their way of you know, they're not like these happy, jolly people all the time, are they? You know, you've only got to look at Robin Williams as well. You know, he's just one example. But there are lots of, you know, a lot of comedians have a very dark side to them. It almost comes with the territory of being a comedian.
Hey, what happened then?
Back in the traffic coming up.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
What, love? You've had enough problems without me. I'll thanks a lot.
It does make you laugh.
Whoa, and the winner is Michael Barrymore.
The 1999 Special Recognition Award goes to Mr. Michael Barrymore.
Yeah, he was like golden balls, wasn't he? He was like winning all these awards. He couldn't put a foot wrong at one point.
Because he's a firm favourite with theatre offices up and down the country.
Thank you very much. Thank you, all. Have a nice night. And you, thank you. I'll be down in a second.
Okay, Doc.
Michael really was truly alive when he was on stage. He needed an audience. He needed to perform. He took risks, which gave him an edge that you don't associate with mainstream entertainment.
Oh, yes.
He went to dangerous places.
Oh, I can't believe this.
He was a
Do you know what I mean? He got away with murder, maybe even literally. You know, he just did. He was so popular. But of course, he had a hit at this time when these things that they're showing now. What people didn't know, of course, he was hiding a lot from the public and his wife, because he was gay. And it's not the fact of him being gay. He's like a sort of another Philip Schofield, isn't he? And those, I suppose, they're people from a time where it was difficult to come out and say you were gay, because, you know, it's not like today's times when people can, I mean, it's still not that easy, obviously, but do you know what I mean? Famous people don't have to be scared to be gay like they would have done in that time, you know. So you have to remember the time that we're talking about. But what always gets me is the deception that's involved in it. It's not being gay. It's like, but when you're married, you know, he must be a good liar. He must be a good liar for his wife not to know that he was gay, or for nobody to suspect. I mean, he's like the least sort of effeminate person you could imagine, isn't he? So you wouldn't get those gaydar vibes from him. You know, and eventually he did come out and declare that he was gay. But even the way he did that, I thought it was horrible for his wife. And, you know, because he just sort of blurted it out one day. And I thought that was quite embarrassing for her, because don't forget, she adored him. His wife adored him. She's unfortunately no longer with us. She died of cancer, but she adored him. And he lied to her for years. And then, as I say, when he did finally come out, wasn't really I don't think it was very respectful to her.
Precious asset of ITV, and ITV then was the biggest stage in Britain. So Michael was addressing the nation, entertaining the nation. His wife was his manager. She'd been an entertainer herself, she was a singer. So between them, they had a pretty clear idea about what entertained people, what made people smile. And it was not just the jokes and the routines, it was also emotional heart. Michael,
you know, people loved him. I don't necessarily think she did know. I think she adores him. You could see she adored him, you know. And anyway, well, we'll never know that. That's between them.
Became so popular because the audience felt he was one of them.
What did you say?
I said, oh God, you're handsome.
No, you didn't. You didn't say that.
Could you imagine getting away, you know, could you imagine a comedian doing that now? I mean, that would be like assault, wouldn't it? They'd be up in court with Russell Brand. I mean, but this is, of course, that we must never forget. At the end of the day, this was a completely different time to the times that we're living in now. But this was Michael. He could do anything. Everyone thought he was funny. It didn't matter what he did. Everybody loved him. Women loved him. Probably men loved him. I don't know. But he was. I think to understand the immensity of this, you have to understand just how famous this man was. And popular.
I think he struggled when he wasn't working. There was a secret he held, and he held it from his family and from his wife.
She adores him. You can see by the way she looks at him. Anyway.
In the mid-90s, everybody knew me on the circuit. Every Friday night, I was at the White Swan. I went on at 12 o'clock, regular as clockwork. It just used to pack out.
The lovely Dave
I guess you hungry. This particular night, I walked on stage, did my jokes, the place erupted, and I thought, it's not that funny. It wasn't that great a line. And they were screaming. And I turned around and Michael Barrymore was behind me.
Oh my God, imagine that. It's like, so there he is in this sort of just normal pub, like doing his normal act. And there's Michael Barrymore behind him. But this is how Michael Barrymore decided to come out.
And he came forward and hugged me and said hello. He said, "What have you got on your tape?" He just sang everything that was on there. And we got to New York. Before I could go any further, he said, "I think I'm gay today." Took his ring off and threw it on the floor. The place just went mental. It just went.
So that's not very nice, is it? Is that the way you come out? Like, you know, the respect to your wife. So you go to a pub where a drag artist is. I'm not saying you shouldn't go to a place where a drag artist is singing, but then to go up and say, "I think I'm gay today," and throw his ring on the floor. Well, you can imagine the furore that caused. And this was before social media. This was before everybody had a phone and social media, you know, a video on their phone.
Right. Very, very happy place.
Other papers used to moan because the Sun always got phone calls. People would phone up with tips. Then often we would actually sit on the night news desk, and in front of you was your phone, but it had about 5 different lines, which would obviously light up. And at night, you know, you might be lucky if you got a few on line 1. And then all of a sudden this night we were sat there, the lights started flashing and going off, and normally that would be like, "Oh, a bomb's gone off," or "There's been a murder." But it was lots of gay men saying, "Guess what's just happened at the White Swan? You know, Michael Barrymore's got on and told everyone he's gay." I don't think we'd really had him down as being gay. So we dispatched a photographer and then waited, you know, to hear if this was actually true.
Yeah, I don't think, you know, sometimes people have ideas, don't they? Or there's rumours or there's whatever. There was no, this was a real bolt from the blue with Michael Barrymore for everybody, even the trash media. I mean, something you'll get angry through this video about the media. They are scum. Honestly, the mainstream media are total scum. It's all about a story. I mean, these were the really bad times, weren't they, of tabloid newspapers. You know, they had so much money. They literally just used to go around and buy stories, get people to talk. They didn't care about anybody. You'll see some things in here that will make you angry, even more angry about the tabloid media. Just awful. They're bad now, but they're better now than they used to be.
Michael was there, drunk but very happy. He said, "I can't go on like this, and this is me." And I think it was a big relief for him.
Once all the brouhaha surrounding Michael Barrymore's show-stopping confession dies down, will it have moved public opinion on or back? According to the most recent survey, the public is still very conservative about sexual relations between adults of the same sex.
Michael Barrymore earned his massive popularity through interacting, or more accurately, fooling about with the British public. My kind of people, he says. The question is he still our kind of entertainer?
Being gay was still taboo. A big married family entertainer comes out and says, "I'm gay." It's a big story. And the trope of the tabloid back then was family does not equate with gay. Gay equates with nightclubs and rent boys and moral ambiguity. And it triggered a stampede of interest from the tabloids.
In the office, there was a sense that he'd been caught out. You know, a sense in those days, which would never happen now, that you could run.
Look at these headlines. I mean, do you know, like, just disgusting, aren't they? I mean, he even tried it on with hetero Bobby Davro. Oh, do you know, sorry to swear, it's Bobby Davro, come on. I mean, they're just crazy. I mean, the British tabloid press we don't have press like that here in Spain, you know. Don't know why this all started in the UK like this, and people got away with it. You know, now in those times, I probably Not that I ever bought The Sun, I don't think, because it's not my political leaning, but you know, it's hard. You know, it's like looking back. I bet anybody who's sort of a bit younger would look back on this and think, oh my God, that could never have happened. But it did.
Loads of negative stories on him. So the hunt was on for lovers and evidence of him, you know, misbehaving.
He was plagued by those people. But
Barrymore pinched our bums in pub. You know, star is thrown out for a bricky chat up. This is the you know, the intellectual level of the British tabloid press.
the vast majority of the public accepted him for who he was.
Yeah. Now, sorry. So just something else that I want to say, though, is that we mustn't forget, you know, Britain, I don't know what's happened to it now, because it didn't affect his popularity at all. In fact, if anything, it made him more popular. That he'd come out, he'd said that he was gay. Didn't affect, this is not what affected him or ruined his career. What ruined his career was the incident with Stuart Lubbock at his pool. But him being gay, you know, British people traditionally are very tolerant. Or they were. I don't know what's happened to them now. But, you know, this is always something I would be proud of being British, is tolerance. Anyway, so he came out, he did that. I think he did it the wrong way. It must have been awful for his wife. But he did it, and it did not affect his popularity. He was still popular.
His audience were way ahead of the tabloids. He was just as authentic to them.
This was Mr. Barrymore's first awards ceremony since he announced his homosexuality. I've no regrets, he told people. My fans have been marvellous.
The winner is Michael Barrymore.
He won all 3 of the awards he was in for, including Most Popular Entertainment Presenter.
I'd like to say it isn't what happens to you in your life, it's how you deal with it.
Yeah. Well, his wife had
And
a
when
lot
you have
to deal
the
with.
support and love of a nation, then no problem apart from death is unsolvable.
An ironic statement, isn't it? No problem apart from death is unsolvable. That was a very prophetic statement. So yes, he did admit he did go to live in Spain. I did talk about it at the beginning of the video. He did go to live in Spain, but he didn't like it. He got homesick and is back now in the UK. And well, I haven't seen his YouTube channel, but he's got over 3 million followers on TikTok. Oh, look at Eamon Holmes. Look at Eamon Holmes. How young he looks. Now, I've always had my doubts about Eamon Holmes. You know, I think ITV, there's a few people that will come up on here that I'm going to point out. There's some, you know, these TV stations, BBC, ITV, you know, Philip Schofield, it's sort of rife, isn't it? Hugh Edwards, it's sort of these things that have come out, if you pardon the expression. There's a lot of duplicity, you know, because, yeah, look at Philip Schofield, all those years, you know, pretending he was straight. Why did he do that? Anyway, I suppose it's difficult for a famous person to come out. I don't know, but just to me, the thing that it shows about Philip Schofield as well, how can you believe anything he says? What a good liar he must have been to have kept that facade up for all that time. And he had children as well. You know, keep that facade up all that time. And then, you know, remember when he came out, you know, on TV with Holly Willoughby or whatever, you know, just, it was sickening. It was sickening. He only came out because he knew there was a story about to break about him. You know, just be who you are. I think this did show with Michael Barrymore that the British public are tolerant. I'm sure he got some hate. I'm sure he got some. But, you know, he was popular and it didn't affect it. It was the Stuart Lubbock incident. But gosh, look at Eamon Holmes there, how young he looks. He probably was really young, but yeah, he hasn't aged very well, has he?
Police outside the house of Michael Barrymore, the scene of a tragic discovery at dawn today. The body of a young man found floating unconscious in the swimming pool at this private estate in the quiet Essex village of Roydon.
I used to go into the News of the World every Saturday afternoon to see if I could pick up a big news event happening. Your initial reaction is, cool.
Remember the News of the World? This man is scum, I'll tell you. Listen to some of the things he comes out with. He would do anything for a story. Anything.
Bloody hell. One of the biggest entertainers in Britain with a body in his pool. It's just like, wow, that's just got News of the World all over it.
Yeah.
I only really cared about getting stuff in the paper. Very rarely would you consider the feelings of anyone because your job was on the line. If you didn't get 12 exclusives every year, you get sacked.
12 exclusives a year at any cost. Now, the one thing I will say for this guy, at least he's admitting it, but some of the things that they did to get those 12 exclusives a year, they didn't care who they walked over, who they upset, what family they hurt. They just didn't care. It was all about getting, you know, some really sort of salacious story. And of course, you couldn't get any better than this as far as he's concerned. He even admits that. You know, there you go. You've got a very, very famous celebrity, a dead young man in his pool, and that was all that mattered. Didn't matter about the family, didn't matter about anything, just mattered about the story.
We were going to get the inside track, whatever it takes. And so pretty much everyone in the whole office would have been involved in that, apart from the guy doing the weather. Everybody else would have been on Barrymore. Yeah, all right, it's tragic, but it's also, what a brilliant story.
What a brilliant story. You know, this is the sort of things they say, isn't it? Yeah, brilliant story. That's all that matters as far as they're concerned. Not thinking about the human tragedy. It's just a brilliant story. Hang on. Yeah, I'm not sure why this comes up, but it does, so.
Investigations have been continuing at Michael Barrymore's home in Roydon after a man was found unconscious in an outdoor pool, but attempts to revive him failed. He's been named tonight as Stuart Lubbock, who worked as a wholesale butcher's supervisor. A spokesman for Michael Barrymore said he was deeply saddened by the terrible tragedy, and his concern and thoughts were for the young man's family.
Yeah, whatever. So Barrymore legged it straight afterwards. He was off, gone. Did you see that old-fashioned police car? It's quite interesting, isn't it, seeing the old cars?
I wish I could carry your smile in my heart.
Yeah, that's right.
When my life seems so
Look at your dress. I love that dress. Have you still got it? Yeah. Have you? Mm. Oh, there I am with Big Pub. Here he is.
Oh, bless.
Oh, bless him. Keeps moving. Yeah, he's nervous. Just all fidgety, yeah.
Oh.
I, Susan Joanne, take you, Stuart.
To be my husband.
To be my husband.
To have and to
I
hold.
can't.
From this day forward.
From this day forward.
For better or worse.
It's your first love, really, wasn't he? Mm. I don't think he wanted to split up, did he? He wanted to try and make it work, and he was heartbroken.
Yeah, he was, wasn't he?
Mm.
He was devoted, but he had a lot of
attention as well from other people. There was always a lot of females that was interested in him. I think he had a lot of friends with benefits. It's just sad, like the whole thing. Yeah. Getting married young, separating, divorcing, him dying.
You know, life, it's takes you to just, you know, sort of just watching this scene when they got married and it was all lovely, and of course it all went wrong and they split up, and then of course what happened to Stuart happened to him. It's a good job you can't see into the future, really.
It's just like the whole lot, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's like you don't believe it. No. No, it did take, it just was. It's just like, what was he doing there? Like, yeah, why was he there? Yeah. He would have just been like starstruck with Barrymore.
Actually, they used to say, "Are you twins?" I suppose we were twins in a way. We got home.
So this is his brother. Now, as far as I know, his brother is still alive.
Work at night, and Stuart pumped the music up on the hi-fi that he had, because we were going in. And we go out to this nightclub, same as what we do every week. And who's there? Who's at this nightclub? Stuart was the best brother in the world. It's everything you could want, really. He was my younger brother as well. I was a year older than him, but I did look up to him.
Oh.
Because Stuart had the looks, Stuart had the charm with the girls. And it actually made me a bit jealous. Stuart said to me, Michael Barrymore was in the toilet. And I was thinking, what, Michael Barrymore? Anyway, he came out of the toilet, and they're all shaking his hand. They're saying, oh, good on you, Michael. Thanks, Michael. You're the best, Michael. I heard this. Actually, and he's coming over in this direction. So I get hold of his hand, say, all right. And I was using his catchphrase. And he said, who are you? You know? And I just smiled at him. Stuart was next to me. And that's the reason why I did it. This woman comes out from somewhere, and she whispers something in Stuart's ear. He went, oh, right, like that. And he shot off.
Yeah, now there were women at this party as well. There was a young girl who was only 17 years old. So I don't know who it was that actually spoke to Stuart and invited him back to the party. I'm just trying to find, I had it up here somewhere, who was actually at the party. Yeah, 8 people at the party. So let's see. So Barrymore, of course. And then the TVs, he was 67 at the time, Michael Barrymore. And there were 2 other men, Justin Merritt and Jonathan Kenny. They were arrested as part of the investigation. But they were all 3 were released without charge due to a lack of sufficient evidence. Though the police always said that they have not been completely eliminated, and they still haven't. So they've had that hanging over them. There's no evidence. Until somebody talks, that this case will never be resolved. And the 5 other people at the party that night were Merritt's younger sister, Kylie, a chef called James Futers, and locals Simon Shaw and Claire Jones, who was only 17, and Kelly Campbell. So that's 3 women that were there. But Detective Chief Inspector Stephen Jennings told a press conference 1 or more of the 8 people at this party are responsible for Stuart's death. Now, when you see how few people were there at that party, they all know. They must know. But anyway, whether anybody will ever tell or not, I don't know.
And we're down those stairs, and I remember looking at him and thinking, oh, right, you're off what he's doing. She was actually saying to Stuart, Barrymore's inviting people back. You know? It was unbelievable.
Nobody had a problem with Michael Barrymore apart from the fact he liked to drink. That's a well-known fact. It probably was at 2:30, something like that in the morning. He come out of the club, walked across the road. He was definitely not walking in a straight line. He was definitely drunk. He had plimsoll type shoes on, jeans, very scruffy. He got in the car. I just went to pull away, so I turned round. A girl got in the front and 2 guys got in the back, who I now know was Stuart Lubbock, was the one in the middle. Didn't like the situation. I thought they was gate crashing in his house. He wasn't in a fit state to entertain anybody. Well,
So it almost sounds like the girls have brought him back to this house, doesn't it?
I was going round the top bend towards Roydon. I felt my headrest move, and it was Michael pulling himself up towards my seat, and he put his head next to mine near enough. I went, I could do with a fuck right now. And then he slouched back into his seat.
Nice.
And he was like that until we actually reached the house.
What Stuart wanted when he went back to Barrymore's, he was going to go to work and just say to everybody, oh, you'd never guess where I was in the weekend. That's all he wanted. That's all he wanted.
So Stuart's family are adamant that he wasn't gay. Well, again, I don't expect we'll ever know unless there's people out there who maybe have had other men that have had experiences with Stuart. But it makes sense to me that, if you got invited back to a famous person's house for a drink, you probably would go, wouldn't you? You wouldn't think you're in any danger. You'd just be starstruck, especially with someone like Michael Barrymore, who was so famous. But, oh, there are 9. Oh, Stuart would be the 9th person, I suppose.
You're saying about somebody's drowning in the pool or something? Someone's drowning in the pool, yeah. Yeah.
God. So something happened quite soon, wasn't it? Because what time was it when they actually got there? Let's see.
It didn't. I couldn't make this move. And it was Michael pulling himself up towards my seat, and he put his head next to mine near enough. I went, I could do with a fuck right now. And then he slouched back into his seat. And he was like that until we actually reached the house.
What Stuart wanted when he went back to Barrymore's, he was going to go to work and just say to everybody, oh, you'd never guess where I was in the weekend. That's all he wanted. That's all he wanted.
Yeah, 2:47, the party starts, and just a couple of hours later, it's all gone wrong.
You say about somebody drowning in the pool or something? Someone's drowning in the pool, yeah. Yeah.
Just shows you just how quick everything can change. Just a couple of hours and the world's changed for those people.
There was a knock at the door, and there were two police. Something inside of me didn't like what they were.
Now, this man, I could get quite upset now because I don't think he ever recovered from Stuart dying. And of course, he never found out what happened to him. As I said earlier at the beginning of the video, Terry now is no longer with us. So hopefully he's with Stuart. Hopefully we'll know now exactly what happened. But it was like a life sentence for him. So nobody's ever been held accountable for his son's death, but he's had to have a life sentence. It's terrible.
We're going to say, I sat in the chair and they told me, I didn't understand. It didn't, I couldn't make sense of it.
Oh.
I couldn't grasp the facts that my son was linked with Barrymore.
Yeah, good God.
It's consumed me what happened to Stuart. It's my life.
That's like killing two people, really, isn't it? It's consumed this poor man. And the thing is, could you imagine it? It's not only someone's coming to tell you that your son's gone out for a drink, his local pub. And then the police are coming around saying, no, he's drowned in a swimming pool. You'd be like, what do you mean a swimming pool? Where the places that Stuart normally went, nobody would have had a swimming pool. Would they be like, what swimming pool? And then the police were saying, oh, well, actually, he was at Michael Barrymore's house. It'd be like, what? I mean, you would literally feel like you were in a nightmare or something and you were going to wake up. Because not only, your son's dead at 31 years old, but he's drowned in a swimming pool. You didn't even know he was going anywhere near a swimming pool. And it was at Michael Barrymore's house, one of the most famous comedians in the country at the time. It must have been surreal. This poor guy has never recovered. He never recovered. And now I hope he's at peace now.
Yeah, it's taken over my life.
The immediate assumption for everybody was that the victim was gay. Because who the hell would go home with Michael Barrymore and with a group of young men? It certainly seemed to be a pretty nasty gay poolside party.
Sorry, I just lit a candle for Stuart and for his dad. I hope they're together somewhere.
To get an exclusive lineup, you have to outsmart 10 other seasoned Sun and Daily Mirror reporters to find the best story that everyone's going to want to read at the end of the week. So I found out where his mother lived and sent myself out to Essex to interview her. I wasn't the first.
Yeah, so this twonk decides to find out where Stuart's mother lives and goes off to interview her. They don't care at all about families. These are scum, these tabloid newspapers and their reporters. Yeah, maybe you'd be worried about losing your job if you do. I'd rather lose my job than go and do something like that. Imagine knocking on the door of his mother.
First one there, the camera crew was already set up around her house. The curtains were closed. I mean, she's just been told that her son is dead. When a crime story happens, it really helps to put on a dark blue suit and look a bit like a detective and just bang on the door.
Yeah, that's what Mark Williams Twonk does, doesn't it? Yeah, put your suit on, look as if you're a detective. That's what he's done, knocked on the door, and this poor woman's come to the door and thought maybe he was a detective. Honestly, these are foul people. Foul, foul people.
And say, hello, Paul McMullen, I'm investigating the incident of your son being found in Barrymore's swimming pool. And she'd go, okay, what would you like to know? And I remember I said, well, he's not gay, is he? It's outrageous what they're saying about your son being gay. And she immediately went, yes, of course he's not gay. She's clearly angry that her son had been branded some way responsible for his own death by the fact that he was gay. And then she said, well, which police station are you from? I said, oh, no, I'm a News of the World investigator. Hello, my name's Paul McMullen. I said, oh, so slam.
He seems to think that's quite funny. I mean, at least he did tell her the truth when she asked him which police station are you from. And good for her that she asked him, because there'd be lots of people that'd be so upset. The next thing, they'd have him in, they'd be giving him a cup of tea. He said he was investigating. I'm investigating your son's death. That's what he said, as if he was a policeman. Luckily for her, she said, which police station are you from? And then he had to tell the truth then, didn't he? And he had to say where he's from, because he could be in serious trouble, wouldn't he? He can't say he is a police person, because then he's what do they call it? Pretending to be a policeman. That's a serious offence, isn't it? So up to then, he hadn't actually told her a lie. She just assumed because of the dark suit he had on. Just explains now why Mark Williams Twonk always wears a dark suit, trying to pretend you're some pseudo-investigator when really you're not. Anyway, she slammed the door in his face, and good for her. But just the thought of, doing that to someone who's already in pain, he's a horrible man, in my opinion.
And the door. But that was enough to give us a good headline.
Everything I was reading didn't sound like Stuart. It just wasn't him that they was talking about. None of it made sense. Most of the papers were saying that it was a gay orgy. Stuart wasn't gay. Stuart, definitely, if you ask any of his work colleagues, friends, family, whoever, everyone would say Stuart wasn't gay.
Well, he might have been gay, didn't matter really.
The budget of my department was 3.1 million a year. We had a lot of money to buy people up. But we immediately approached the people at the party. Within just a matter of hours of the body being fished out, we had Barrymore's lover, John Kenny, on the phone himself. We ended up paying him £60,000.
Yeah. So Michael Barrymore's lover, that guy that they just showed the picture, he's on the phone trying to get his sell his story. £60,000. That's a lot of money now. But imagine how much money that would have been 25 years ago. You know, Michael Barrymore's boyfriend at the time, he's just a POS, in my opinion, as well.
To tell us exactly what went on that night. He portrayed himself as the hero of the hour, how he fished the body from the pool and performed CPR for 25 minutes and talked about his nightmares. There was a dustman called Justin Merritt, and we gave him £30,000.
He only got £30,000, probably because he's a dustman and he's not Michael Barrymore's actual partner. But he was one of the people that was actually arrested, wasn't he, as well? I think they were the two people that were arrested. So they've both made money out of this boy's death. You know, £60,000, £30,000. It's horrible, isn't it? It is so horrible, this whole thing.
I wasn't convinced they told the truth at all. They told what they wanted people to believe, but I don't think, I think it's quite a long way from the truth.
So truth isn't the most important thing here?
No. The fact that the person was there and telling a bucket load of lies didn't matter. truth does matter, but in this case, it didn't really.
Yeah.
Your overriding concern is someone's lost their life. Your professional concern is we're going to have to make some judgments.
Yeah, the truth doesn't matter. I mean, the truth obviously does matter. And they shouldn't have been able to profit out of that situation.
There's clearly so much speculation, so much noise, that the idea that Michael coming on and doing an act and being funny and so on, messing around, didn't feel right. There was a meeting I had with Michael in my office, and we suspended the shows. Now, it doesn't mean to say that we would set Michael adrift and say, off you pop, we're not going to do anything with you anymore, because we didn't know. We didn't know the facts. Michael was in an impossible position. You're powerless to stop misreporting, distortions of events, stories that the tabloids were determined to hang on. For an entertainer like Michael, this is corrosive. It's undermining his relationship with the audience.
Good evening and welcome to this special edition of the Tonight programme.
Michael thought I should do this interview because my side of the story is not...
And look who's interviewing him, Martin Bashir. Oh my God! I tell you what, you'll find this documentary is so interesting. So we've had Eamon Holmes, now we've got Martin Bashir. Who's coming up next? Oh my God! We only need Hugh Edwards or bloody Philip Schofield, and it'll be just like it's the rogues gallery of the ITV, isn't it? Good God!
Not getting across.
What happened when you got home? Can you just take me through the sequence of events?
We agreed we'd go to the jacuzzi, give it a go. Went down to the corner end of the house. I gave them some shorts. They changed. I changed into a pair of shorts. Walked out to the pool towards the jacuzzi. Everybody was back in the house by then. And then I looked down, which is effectively the deep end, and Stuart was there.
What did you do?
So it was him who saw Stuart in the pool. It was Michael who saw him first, by his own admission.
Freaked out. I ran back in and got Jonathan, who I know is a lifesaver. And Simon and James jumped in and pulled his body out. It was like some really bad film with not a happy ending. This is somebody I never knew. But it was my house. It was my pool. And I felt responsible for that.
Well, you are responsible, Michael, because like I say, it was your house, it is your pool. But something happened to that boy more than that. He's not telling the full story one way or another, I don't think. There weren't enough people there for it to be that. I literally could understand if there was 50 people at that party, you could see that it could get chaotic and you wouldn't really know what was going on. But 8 people, well, 9 including Stuart, and that open pool, I just not. It's not going in with me at all, I'm afraid. Michael knows what happened to Stuart. I'm not saying Michael did it. I'm saying Michael knows.
I don't know what to say.
Mm.
I don't know. Some of the papers wrote sex orgy. There was no sex in that house that night. There was no orgy that I was aware of at all. It's totally fabricated. To this day, I don't know what happened to him.
I don't believe you. Oh, sorry. Anyway, let me know what you think. Hi, Wesley.
I would have been phoned in the morning to say that a person has been found in a swimming pool and he's dead, and we now need to know what the cause of death is. These are my original diagrams that I made when I examined Stuart. So the first page shows a number of small injuries that I identified. There's small abrasions, injuries you'd get if you removed, or when Stuart was removed from the swimming pool. I look and see if there's any scuffle injuries, restraint injuries, and I could find no injuries that showed that sort of pattern. When I went through the whole post-mortem with the police, it was my opinion that there was no third party involved in the death. As a result of that, it was my opinion, with fluid in the air passages and fluid in the lungs, that this was a case of immersion, as I call it, or drowning.
So this was the first autopsy. So there were further autopsies done that came to completely different conclusions. I mean, look how open that is. I'm sorry. I just literally cannot see how open that pool is. How...
When I went through the whole post-mortem with the police, it was my opinion that there was no third party involved in the death. As a result of that, it was my opinion, with fluid in the air passages and fluid in the lungs, that this was a case of immersion, as I call it, or drowning.
Look, no, there's only 9 people. How in the world could it, it just doesn't, it's not sitting well with me that people didn't see what happened. So now we've got a second post-mortem examination.
I wasn't convinced that drowning was the correct cause of death. Even though he was found in water, that does not mean that he has died there. Water can hamper investigations in terms of trace evidence. So
now listen to this very carefully, because this is where, when I was watching this, because this literally today, I was watching it earlier, and just my ears pricked up with what this guy is saying. So many these similarities between what was found at the Nicola Bulley post-mortem.
We've now got to be confident whether he drowned or not. Dr. Calder is a well-recognised expert on drowning, and that was why he was involved.
And you, George, come on.
What's Ian doing, Dorothy?
Well, he's gone to collect his files. He keeps them in an old shed locked up in the garden.
I said, I think there may be difficulties and troubles here because it's a high-profile case. They wanted to be sure that this was actually drowning because there was a lot hanging on it. What makes a perfectly fit and healthy chap drown? Stuart's lungs did not show the classical appearances of drowning. They were very heavy, much heavier than one expected, and also they did not appear to be overlapping each other in the chest cavity. Sometimes people inhale stomach contents, but there were no stomach contents I could see. There was no typical froth in the lungs because they'd obviously done some sophisticated resuscitation. Didn't add up to a classical drowning. One always, with these cases, one thinks, American expression, think dirty.
There were some findings that were clearly abnormal. There was petechiae present.
Petechiae. He said there were some findings that were abnormal. Petechiae. Do you remember with the Nicola Bulley inquest? Petechiae was found in Nicola's eyes, and it was, it was a bit. Remember, we talked about it a lot at the time. It's unusual. It's not unheard of. It's not unheard of for that to occur with drownings, but it's unusual. Listen, this guy is going to explain to you about petechiae.
Petechiae are pinhead-sized hemorrhages you get in the face and the eyes. They occur for a number of reasons. but one of them is that the neck has been compressed.
Yeah.
In other words, someone has either been strangled or put in an arm lock.
Not drowning.
When I first did my examination, it was apparent there was a lot of blood on the cloth that he'd been wrapped in. And that was around.
So, you know, there you go. That's just come from that forensic expert. Petechiae is more common when somebody has been strangled or put in an arm lock. So that's one of the reasons he decided, or he felt, that there was foul play in Stuart's case. And we must remember that those petechiae were found in Nicola's case. Now, I've just given you a warning now because they're going to go into the further results of the second autopsy, and they're quite graphic. So just a bit of a trigger warning.
The pelvic region, and that showed that there was extensive hemorrhage from the region of the anus. There was clear dilatation of the anal canal. There were clear injuries around the anus, and those injuries included abrasions, they included bruising, and they included tearing of the anal wall. In the informal setting that we are here, I would describe the injuries to the anus as horrific.
The petechiae and the anal injuries are not simple drowning findings.
Yeah.
And therefore they raise concerns that this person did not drown in the pool.
So they keep mentioning this petechiae. You know, they keep mentioning it. So, you know, it's relevant in the Nicola. But the thing is about the Nicola Bulley case, you know, her family, it's up to her family to pursue it, not us. You know, that's how I feel about it now. If her family don't want to pursue it, then, you know, I can't. But this immediately struck me.
Now, it's not my job to tell the police how to do their investigation, but it is my job to tell the police this may not be a drowning, and you should be aware of that.
An inquest into the death of a man found floating in a swimming pool at the home of the television entertainer Michael Barrymore began today.
Now the television star is expected to give his version of events at the inquest into Mr. Lubbock's death.
The coroner has stressed that today's hearing is not a trial. Instead, it's an investigation into the events that took place here at Michael Barrymore's house and an attempt to establish exactly how Stuart Lubbock died.
I'd just come from the regions. I was new to network, and it was my first stab at working in the main newsroom at the BBC. What I remember is the first thing I saw was a wall of photographers. The atmosphere was practically febrile.
Arriving at the opening of today's inquest was the well-known barrister Michael Mansfield. He's been hired by Mr. Barrymore to represent him throughout the proceedings.
Having somebody like Mike Mansfield there was daunting. He'd been involved in the Bloody Sunday inquiries, and he'd helped prosecute the men alleged of killing Stephen Lawrence. It showed that Mr. Barrymore was taking the inquiry very seriously. He wanted someone very experienced in order to put across his account of that night. Terry and the family didn't have the means to pay going rate for representation. So the solicitor and I basically did it for free.
The coroner, Caroline Bees.
Yeah, you know what? Justice is not free, is it? You know, if you've got money, you can afford the best lawyers. And luckily for the Stuart's family, this guy did it practically free. You know, I suspect he got some publicity from it or whatever. But you know, it's just awful, isn't it? Really, that yeah, justice is not free, is it?
Murray told the court this was an inquest into a death and not an inquiry into people's sexual or social activities.
There had been widespread tabloid coverage that there had been some kind of wild gay orgy at the house. When the party guests arrived at the inquest, what became evident very quickly was that they were actually quite a disparate group of people. There was Justin Merritt, his sister Kylie Merritt, local to Harlow. They happened to be in the club that night. And then there was Claire Jones and Kelly Campbell, two girls in their teens. They were friends of Kylie's. And then there was Simon Shaw and James Futers. They had a connection to Barrymore. They kind of knew him from a local pub. And
Yes, so there's 3 girls there, 2 of which were very young. It is maybe there was no, you know, maybe nothing did go on. I mean, I just don't know.
And there was Jonathan Kenny. He'd been with Michael Barrymore as his boyfriend for a couple of months. So this is the one opportunity for them to tell the story of what happened that night, where we were going to get as far as possible the facts and not just the tabloid rumours.
Today, the court heard from Kylie Merritt. She told the inquest that she saw Mr. Barrymore rub cocaine into Stuart Lubbock's gums. When asked by the coroner whether Mr. Lubbock appeared unwilling, she replied yes, he had tried to move his head away.
Whilst people were prepared to say, yes, we were there, yes, there was drugs.
What? So she actually testified to say that Barrymore, she'd seen Barrymore trying to rub cocaine into Stuart's gums. And Stuart had tried to move his head away. Oh.
Drugs, yes, there was alcohol. There was a void in anybody commenting on where Stuart was or who he was with in the time period up to him being found in the pool. So on their evidence, Stuart's death remained unexplained.
As Michael Barrymore left his home on the way to court, there were still hopes he'd be able to shed more light on the convoluted and conflicting versions of how a young man came to be found dead in his swimming pool.
Michael Barrymore's reputation had been built on being likeable, he was funny, he was trustworthy. People thought that they knew him. So quite obviously, the expectation was that he would come to court, that he would give evidence, and that evidence would be as detailed as possible, that he would almost be as amiable as he was on television. I mean, that isn't actually what happened.
The entertainer Michael Barrymore has refused to answer questions about alleged drug taking at his home on the night a man was found dead in his swimming pool.
He denied rubbing cocaine on the gums of Stuart Lubbock, as 2 other guests had earlier claimed.
The coroner asked Mr. Barrymore, did you see Stuart in the kitchen with cocaine? I am not prepared to answer that question, said Mr. Barrymore. And when cross-examined by the Barrymore...
I mean, how are you allowed not to be prepared to answer that question? You have to answer the question. A man is dead. How could he say, oh, I'm not answering that question? Well, it's not no comment. I mean, for God's sake.
For the Lubbock family, was it you who rubbed cocaine into Stuart's gums? No, it was not, said Mr. Barrymore.
He refused to answer questions about some significant things. He was allowed to do that. There's nothing wrong with that. But he refused. That in itself generated headlines because it's obviously then his silence, which implies something.
Well, you know, I've got to agree with that. If you're innocent, you don't have to be silent, do you?
It's very exciting. It was great. I mean, this is a chance to set the news agenda for the week.
Thank you, Admit, for being a member for 7 months. Thank you so much.
There's lots of little add-on stories that kept this story going.
I cannot swim, he said, but Simon Shaw and James Futers jumped in.
There was a lot of hoo-ha about why didn't Barrymore jump in and save the boy if he found him floating in his swimming pool. But Barrymore said, I didn't jump in because I can't swim. And various people saying, well, we've seen him swim, so he can swim.
Barrymore told the inquest.
Yeah, so not only that, he lied and said he couldn't swim. But now you'll see that then loads of people came out and said, well, yeah, of course he can swim. You know, so not only he refused to answer some questions, he lied about other things.
He couldn't swim. His ex-wife Cheryl says he can.
She's been interviewed by the police in the last couple of days, and she's given them the names and addresses of at least a dozen other people who have swum with Michael Barrymore.
If the allegation was true, it would be a very, very serious matter, yeah. But Mr. Barrymore says he can't swim, and the allegation is untrue.
Michael Barrymore described finding Mr. Lubbock's body. He admitted that after it was pulled from the water, he left that.
So you can't swim, but you've got a house with a swimming pool. Right, yeah, because that's what you do, isn't it? If you couldn't swim, you'd get a swimming pool. Of course you would. For God's sake, you know what? The trouble with Michael Barrymore, he was funny and that, but I always used to think he was taking the pee a little bit out of the public. And that's exactly what he's doing. He's expecting people to believe that he's got a swimming pool at his house, but he can't swim. That's the last thing you'd have if you can't swim, isn't it?
The house, he said it was not the right thing to do, but he was in a panicky state.
Mr. Barrymore rifled through some drawers, took some personal possessions, and left before the ambulance arrived.
Why would he run away? It's his house, his pool.
He left before the ambulance arrived. I mean, you know, the more I watch this, the more I think, you know, Michael, I mean, he's got to know something. Who knows? Something happened to Stuart. Somebody did something to him. And if it wasn't Michael, or he doesn't know who it is, imagine leaving before the ambulance arrived. I just think if something like that happened, I mean, I haven't got a swimming pool, but you know, if somebody had an accident in your house, or you know, if I was in class and a student fell ill, could you imagine me leaving before the ambulance came? Just like, oh, you're all okay now, I'm off. It's just unbelievable.
His party, and he's run off. Most people will flee the scene because they're guilty as hell.
The Entertainer's barrister complains the tabloid reporting was lurid and unfair. And he says that witnesses who've been paid for their stories might have been prejudiced.
I've been in the job 30 years, and it's worse now, I think, than it's ever been, because the tabloids themselves have vast sums of money and resources, and I think they don't really care.
One man can produce the truth. Michael Barrymore, he has failed to do so. And for his counsel, his QC, to criticise newspapers in their efforts to produce the truth is frankly outrageous.
This was the biggest story in Britain that year. Biggest story of the decade, crime-wise. Had all the magic ingredients, you know.
Hi, Bluebell. Hi, Angel. Yeah, we have talked about that, Angel. You'll have to get on catch up. We have talked a little bit about that. But thanks anyway. And good luck with your sketching.
I think the story would have been bigger if it had been a sweet, innocent girl who had been found floating in a pool, because there would have been better pictures to come out. People might have felt more sympathy.
Good luck.
The single most important person at this inquest was actually Stuart Lubbock. The crucial thing here was to try and understand how a young man, a much-loved son, a brother, had ended up dead.
So he looks like just a sort of sweet guy, doesn't he? Do you know what I mean? Just a sweet, ordinary guy. Would have been easy to turn his head. You know, like as far as Michael Barrymore, nice big house, pool and everything. He just looks like a sweet, ordinary guy. Now, a fourth forensic pathologist. This is the fourth one.
The difficulty was that even after the second post-mortem examination, there still seemed to be some uncertainty about both the cause of death and the circumstances surrounding Stuart's death. Now, the assumption that he had drowned in the swimming pool, in my view, was based on rather tenuous and rather flimsy evidence. I think where we were agreed was that Stuart had been the victim of a serious sexual assault. The photographs showed a widening of the anal canal, laceration to it, highly suggestive of some large object having been forcibly inserted into the anus. It could have been an attempt at forcible fisting.
A bottle, a dildo, that sort of thing could have caused those injuries.
How awful, poor Stuart.
I was shown a photograph at the police headquarters, and it shows on the wall of the jacuzzi a pool thermometer that would have 4 cutting edges. An object like this, or even this object, could have produced the injuries I identified on Stuart's anus if this had been passed into the anal canal a number of times.
Gosh, that's awful, isn't it? But didn't the police take that away for forensic examination? I mean, it seems like no proper forensics were done.
Cannot contemplate any circumstances where this was a consensual act.
Do you think Stuart was raped?
Well, I think that is a very likely scenario.
When Michael Barrymore was asked how these injuries might have been sustained, he said he did not know. He was adamant that they could not have happened at his home.
Michael Mansfield, on behalf of Mr. Barrymore, put a series of suggestions to witnesses to try and run the theory that the injuries might have been occasioned in a different way and not at the property.
Well, the CCTV footage of Stuart Lubbock leaving the nightclub seemed to indicate that he was perfectly fine.
Could it have been an accident? Stuart could have dive bombed into the pool.
That is an improbable explanation. Dive bombing into the pool would not cause these injuries.
The injuries might have been occasioned to Stuart during resuscitation by the repeated insertion of the rectal thermometer.
These probes are really only a couple of millimeters diameter. They're rounded at the tip.
Well, that's interesting, isn't it? If they used that on him, could they have caused the injuries? But they're saying no.
And could not conceivably have caused the injuries.
At no stage through the inquest process did I hear anything from Mr. Barrymore that would lead me to believe there was an acceptance that there had been a serious sexual assault at the house.
This young man has suffered a very violent and very serious sexual assault. So perhaps, from my point of view, I think that would have been the most important aspect of the case. Here we have Stuart with both MDMA and cocaine in his bloodstream, and then this sudden assault. That combination could, in my opinion, very easily have caused him to have a sudden cardiac arrest. To me, that is one very plausible explanation to account for Stuart's death.
Gosh, so now he's saying cardiac arrest. So all these different. So basically, apart from the very first forensic examination, when I think they were just assuming that it was drowning, to be honest. Since then, all the other forensic examinations have come out with, different ideas.
Post-mortem examinations revealed that Stuart Lubbock had suffered serious sexual injuries.
Severe internal injuries.
Serious anal injuries. He may have been raped. That may have contributed to his death.
My dad started pulling his eyes out. I had to get the dad out straight away. The pathologist, he was really adamant, and hopefully that put an end to the theory that, somebody had sex with him. That was my brother.
Yeah, bad enough. He's deceased. Then they find out he's deceased in a swimming pool. When he's only gone to the pub for the night. Then they find out it was Michael Barrymore's swimming pool, and now they're finding out that he'd been Essex assaulted. Just awful for this family. Awful.
Why would you rape Stuart? It didn't make sense. And how did he get them injuries so severe that could have killed him? The pain he must have been in. It's just hard.
This is the report of the post-mortem. I can keep an eye on them, and they're quite important to me. This underlining was done by me after the inquest.
No.
These injuries were indication of a serious sexual.
These are just a normal family, aren't they? They're just a normal family. He's destroyed by his son's death, and it's ruined his life as well. His brother, you can see, is destroyed. They're just an ordinary family. It seems to me that Stuart was just an ordinary guy who they took a fancy to and decided to invite him to the party because he's quite a good-looking guy. And he would have been totally, starstruck by the fact he'd been invited back to Michael Barrymore's house, not knowing what was going to happen to him.
Assault. They were not, in my view, have been caused by consensual intercourse. Bastards. Fucking bastards.
Yeah, good for you. They are bastards. No.
They drugged my son. I hope to God that Stuart was on another planet, that he didn't feel the pain.
No.
A mystery. That's the coroner's verdict of the inquest into...
So there, yeah, that father, the best hope he can have is that his son was drugged out of his head, hopefully, and didn't feel the pain.
The death of a man whose body was found floating in the entertainer Michael Barrymore's swimming pool.
The coroner said none of these witnesses who were party guests have given to this court an explanation about how Stuart Lubbock, a previously fit 31-year-old, should be found floating in a swimming pool at the premises with a significant level of alcohol and drugs in his system and have serious sexual injuries.
When she delivered her open verdict, she made it very clear that the patchy memories of the partygoers that night
had done absolutely nothing to establish the facts. You did end up asking yourself, how much of this is witnesses feeling they have to hold back? And if they feel they have to hold back, why do they feel they have to hold back?
The learned coroner has today recorded an open verdict, and the family, although disappointed, are pleased that the circumstances in which Stuart met his death have now been made public.
Stuart Lubbock.
So what do you think of the verdict? So it was an open verdict. Not enough evidence to prove foul play, but wasn't all those injuries enough evidence? I don't know. What are the options? It'd be maybe the only verdict that she could give, the coroner, was an open verdict. At least it left it open instead of, you know, until maybe some more evidence comes out. I just can't believe those other people haven't come forward, especially the girls. You know, if they can't have been, you know, a lot of people are saying it was like an orgy or whatever, but there were 3 girls there. You know, so unless, you know, what did they join in with it? I mean, what? It can't have been. Or where were the girls when it all happened? I mean, I do think it's a big problem that they were probably all drunk and drugged up as well. So the memories won't be clear, but still, there's such an open space there and so few people there. I just cannot believe they don't know what happened.
Family left court today deeply dismayed. The coroner said despite intense media interest, they had maintained both dignity and composure.
The overwhelming sense that I had at the end of it was I just felt incredibly sorry for the Lubbock family.
Yeah.
That was it, really. As I do to this day, actually.
Well, you know, it could have been worse than an open verdict, of course. It could have been accidental death. You know, I'm surprised they didn't try and buy off the bloody coroner like they did. Well, I don't know if they did in the other. You know, it's influenced the coroner. You know, it could have been worse than an open verdict, even though an open verdict, I don't know what else they could have come up with, really. But the police are investigating anyway. They've investigated for all these years, but they haven't come up with any more evidence.
If this had been a woman face down in this pool, seriously sexually assaulted, bitterly abused, physically abused, we'd never have seen an outcome like this.
Well, unfortunately, I would refute that. Perhaps you would think naturally so. This investigation has been as thorough as it can be, given the context in which we've been operating.
You know, maybe that's true. Maybe if it would have been a woman with those sort of injuries found deceased in a swimming pool, maybe there's some sort of like, you know, is it because it has happened, hasn't it, that quite often justice hasn't always been found for men, that it might be found for women. Yeah, if that was a sort of, yeah, if that would have been a woman found with those injuries, surely that would have been murder, concluded to be murder. You know, very least manslaughter. Is it because he was a man and not a woman? And, you know, because maybe it involves some gay sex or something? Is there a homophobic sort of thing there? I don't know. Let me know what you think.
I do have some private views about it, but this open verdict means that I have to be extremely careful about how I articulate those.
So an open verdict essentially means the coroner can't come to a decision about what happened. So it enables, I think, anybody to spin it in whatever way they feel appropriate, consistent with whatever narrative they want to put across. So Mr. Barrymore wants to use that inquest process to try and salvage his life.
Yeah, I think you're right, Yvonne, as well, in a way. It's probably a mixture of everything. It's class, because, you know, he's obviously just an ordinary lad. It's financial, he's not rich, he's not famous like Barrymore. And the fact that it's probably a combination of all those things.
good morning. Michael Barrymore says he has new evidence about the events at his home the night Stuart Lubbock died.
Breaking his silence, Michael Barrymore sat down with GMTV's Fiona Phillips at his luxury hotel in Dubai.
Oh,
In the last...
his luxury hotel in Dubai. Oh dear, he's not really suffering that much. So he sat down, this is Fiona Phillips that he sat down with. Well, she's unfortunately recently been diagnosed with dementia, hasn't she? But she's married to that horrible Martin Frizzell. He's another one. He's right involved with all the McCann thing and everything. It's like a cesspit. I think the ITV, Simon Cowell, all of those people, there's like a cesspit of people there. Hopefully they're getting weeded out, because I'll tell you what, Martin Frizzell, he is so sinister. He really gives me the creeps. And poor Fiona, she's married to him, been married to him for a long time, but you know, is he another one?
few days, my solicitors managed to locate one of the nurses who worked on Stuart.
Oh, listen.
And he quite clearly states, without any shadow of a doubt, that when Stuart Lubbock arrived at the A&E department, there were absolutely no injuries whatsoever to his.
So here's the latest thing now. So Michael Barrymore came out, made this interview and said they'd found some nurse there at the emergency department, said when Stuart arrived at the A&E or whichever part of the hospital he arrived at, he had no injuries. So who did these injuries then, I wonder? Do you think somebody did them on purpose at the hospital? Oh, come on, Michael.
Body. He did not receive any injuries at my house.
Now, what do you think about that? He did not receive any injuries at my house. Somebody obviously injured him afterwards.
At all.
And yet they were definitely there. He did sustain injuries, so if it didn't happen at your house, where could it have happened?
They did not happen at my house.
When Mr. Lubbock's body left Mr. Barrymore's
Come on.
house, medical staff say that there are no injuries on the body. Yet at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, when the post-mortem is performed, there are severe and unmissable injuries on the body.
Yeah, but weren't the internal injuries, when they took him out of the water, obviously they couldn't find wouldn't they be, you know, they don't know what injuries he had internally. They will be looking for like injuries like had he banged his head or had anyone stabbed him, or, you know, external injuries that were visible. These injuries that Stuart sustained were, internal injuries, weren't they?
Michael, where does this leave you as regards your career? Do you believe exoneration?
Oh, here it is, big up Eamon Holmes again. He's back again, looking a little bit older than the last time we saw him in this video. Yeah, good old Eamon.
In this would lead to a revival of your TV career.
To be honest, Eamon, I'm only here to deal with this. I'm purely here and interested that we can get together with the Lubbocks and the investigation is done right. You know, we should be joining forces to find out what happened to Stuart.
Thank you, Michael. We've got to leave it there. Thank you very much indeed.
Thanks very much indeed.
Your views on Michael Barrymore's situation, text us 81189. We're going to take a short break.
Yeah, so what do you think about that?
I suppose in his mind what he was doing was appealing to the court of public opinion. But the problem with the court of public opinion is that it has no way of handing down a judgment. There's no point trying to convince Fiona Phillips or an unseen part of the ITV audience that you're innocent, because neither of them can give you innocence.
We'd like to ask you this question. Michael Barrymore has not been found guilty of any crime, but do you want to see him on television ever again?
No, I mean, the thing is, the problem for Michael, I know he's not been found guilty of any crime, but he's a comedian. You know, he's not an actor like that could be in a drama or you know, even a soap opera or whatever. He's a comedian. So how could he be doing the things he was doing before, you know, which was basically taking the piss out of people, wasn't it? That's his humour. People loved him. The public loved him. He could get away with anything. But the trouble is, you know, after this tragedy, he just couldn't, because he's a comedian. And just couldn't happen, could it? You know, this is a say, he just couldn't.
Particular difficulty was that he wasn't guilty of anything, but nor was he innocent of anything. To vanish would be seen as an admission of guilt.
We've just received a statement from Essex Police. They've reviewed the investigation into the death of Stuart Lubbock, and in view of an additional line of inquiry suggested by Michael Barrymore, a further investigation will be launched based on the suggestion that the injuries to Stuart Lubbock were caused at the Princess Alexandra Hospital.
What? Essex Police launch an investigation into Michael Barrymore's public claims that Stuart Lubbock's anal injuries were inflicted at the hospital after his death. Oh, come on. Anyway, there you go. That's what he said.
How do you think those injuries were sustained? What's your suspicion?
If I start saying my suspicions on things like that, then I think that would be totally wrong. That's for the police to investigate. I have my views on it, thoughts obviously.
How might this affect your career?
I have no way of knowing. It's not in my hands what I do. If somebody wants to use me, they'll use me. If the public want me, they'll watch.
Today, Stuart Lubbock's family said they wanted every...
I wonder who came up with that bright idea.
...possible line of inquiry followed up.
It must be spelt out, but the facts will be the same.
Meanwhile, Michael Barrymore says not only is he now ready to work again, he says there are offers on the table.
If I was to say to you, how many months before you're back on telly, Michael, what would you say?
4, 5 months, 6 months.
He says 4, 5, 6 months. Can you see it happening? Barrymore on telly?
I think everyone would like to see Barrymore back on TV, because when he's on form, he's brilliant. You know, the British public are a pretty forgiving bunch.
An ITV executive at the time told me that one of the issues in whether to bring back Michael Barrymore was that an astonishing number of ITV adverts begin with a shot of a swimming pool. It seems odd, but of course that is true because so much of the advertising is holiday related. But imagine Barrymore comes back on ITV, he says we'll be back after this, and then you just see a succession of pictures of swimming pools.
That's interesting, isn't it? That one of the reasons they wouldn't have him back was because of how many swimming pools are in adverts. I just don't see how they could ever have him back, because every joke, you know, people are going to think of Stuart. And anyway, it's not fair to Stuart with his family.
I don't know why I love you, but I do.
At the peak of his fame, Michael Barrymore was watched by millions, but he's making his comeback in front of an audience of just a few hundred. This was a rehearsal, but he's hoping the show's 7-week run in the West End will restore his public reputation and allow him to step back into the limelight.
Coming back onto stage, it was a risk, wasn't it? That although you're entirely legally innocent, there was a fear, there must have been, that that scandal is now a shadow, that it's harder for people to laugh at you. Did that worry you?
I can't go on stage and take that on stage with me, and there's no way I do.
But you don't worry that people see you differently now because of all that stuff they've read in papers about you?
Well, I mean, yeah, but if they believe what they read, would they come in the first place?
I sat through it with sweating palms and a knot in my stomach, and the audience was not with him. There was a point when he said to the band, look, you start, I'll come in. It doesn't matter if we don't finish together, because frankly, no one here cares. And it was true. Nobody actually did.
You cannot maintain the polite fiction that you're out for an evening of light entertainment. You realize you were watching a desperate man.
To me, he felt the audience were withholding their warmth and laughter. They were judging him. So one of his great calling cards, which was his rapport with the audience, disappeared.
Yeah.
We would.
I mean, he's a bit narcissistic, really, isn't he, to think that people would, you know, be able to laugh along with him, because there's that big question. Much as he tried to create that doubt by creating this ridiculous story that the injuries had happened at the hospital, you know, it doesn't look at his face there. You just, you know, if you've got any sort of empathy whatsoever, you can feel there's nothing coming off him now. Whereas when you watched, when we watched those things at the beginning, you know, you couldn't help but, you know, he was quite infectious, wasn't he, with his sort of the way people loved him and everything. You can see on that it's gone. It's gone. It's like a damp squib, isn't it? So even his biggest fans wouldn't have been able to laugh at him.
Would have been showing the interview on the Friday night and then discussing it. And on the Thursday, as I remember, they announced that the theatre run had been abandoned. They'd cancelled the whole theatre show.
Yeah, good.
Police say they've taken evidence from 16 people, including pathologists and staff at the hospital. Detectives are satisfied injuries to Stuart Lubbock occurred before he died.
There you go. So then they did the investigation. So all that time wasted and money wasted, and the injuries happened before he died. And here's his dad, his poor long-suffering dad, had to go through all that as well. Again.
The thought of any interference with the body when it's in the mortuary, I couldn't accept, for the simple reason. One is the body is wrapped up, and it was wrapped up when I was there present. And the other is that you've actually got bruising and tearing and bleeding from the anus. And if you were dead, that would not happen.
When you find bruising, it indicates that the person is still alive and their heart is still beating. So there's no doubt.
Now that again is quite interesting as far as Nicola Bulley is concerned, isn't it? Bruising is caused, remember the bruises on Nicola? Bruising is caused when the heart is still beating. So again, with the I can never pronounce that word, Pathology or whatever it is. I could pronounce it earlier because he just said it, so I could just repeat it. But yeah, so not only those phenomena in the eyes, you know, the blood hemorrhage, tiny pinpricks of blood, the bruising, what this guy is saying, bruising can only occur when the heart is beating, he's saying. So there's another similarity to Nicola Bulley.
That he was still alive when those injuries were sustained. In my opinion, Stuart Lubbock sustained those injuries at Michael Barrymore's house. I think they've occurred shortly before his death.
The theory that this was essentially necrophilia, I think, is a fanciful explanation.
Were you surprised that the medics didn't notice the injuries to Stuart's anus?
No, not at all. It's quite common for forensic pathologists to pick up injuries that are not identified by clinicians, and that's why you do post-mortem examinations, because we find things that other people don't.
Exactly. How are you going to find internal injuries until you do the post-mortem?
ITV has dropped Michael Barrymore, who used to be one of its biggest stars. The network isn't renewing his contract and won't be making any more programmes with him.
Now the entertainer's trying new life in New Zealand, far away from the scandal.
Oh, so he tried New Zealand. Now he's tried Spain, but he's back in Britain now. Thing is, he is so, I can't imagine him in Spain. He'd be like, well, he's one of them expats. I can imagine him in Spain. He'd be one of them land and sort of like coming over to Spain, not learning a word of Spanish, thinking all the Spanish are like they're the foreigners in their own country. I could just imagine him in Spain. Anyway, he didn't like Spain, so he's gone, thank God. And where he was, I think the other thing he's saying about, there was no orgy and there was no that, where he went to live in Spain, in Sitges, that is a famous place for orgies. That's what they do in Sitges. You want an orgy in the sun, go to Sitges, just near Barcelona. That's where you can do whatever you want. And he went there. So we have to, he's like, he's a grown adult. He's perfectly entitled to do that. But what I'm trying to say is the way he said, there was no sex in that house that night. All prissy, like as if he'd never get involved in anything like that. Well, why did he go to Sitges?
To say it was a relatively straightforward judgment to make. What kind of career did he have left anyway? He was a unique talent, and that unique talent didn't work anymore against the context of what happened that night. That's it. So it was the end.
I'll be back on in a minute. Just having one of them little pauses.
I'm a campaign publicist, trying to get to the truth by the use of publicity. You've got to have the right characters and players to work with. If you haven't got them, you're in a hide into nothing. And with Terry, he's a great character.
How's your tea going down?
Yeah, it's lovely. His cause is second to none. The first meeting with Terry, seeing him face to face, a father that lost a son, and I thought, this guy needs help.
Who killed Stuart Lubbock at Michael's house?
Yeah, good.
I'd take credit for that one. The simple idea is often the best, aren't they? I think it cost a tenner.
Quite simply, those anal injuries led to my son's death.
Terry was on his own. He was the only person within that Lubbock family that really was prepared to do battle. He was getting coverage in the local press, but we had to have the front page stories. We had to keep the pressure on. What we were after was the second police investigation. Michael Barrymore was the hook. Without him, probably going nowhere, is it? It's not going to go anywhere with Justin Merritt or Jonathan Kelly. They're not the stars. The star is Michael Barrymore. We were actually thinking about going to New Zealand with Terry, confronting Barrymore there. And little did we know that Barrymore was planning to come back.
This is where the fun really starts.
Yeah. So, what did he do then? I watched this series. He went on Celebrity Big Brother, didn't he? We saw a bit of the true side of him on there as well, I think.
Please welcome housemate number 2. It's Michael Barrymore. Emotional there, backing it up. with the crowd.
Yeah, did you watch it? I watched this series and I remember him saying on that, you know. Anyway, it was a good series.
Michael was always desperate to come back to TV. It consumed him, and I think he felt very lost. He saw this as a way of redeeming himself, maybe getting forgiveness from the public.
Oh.
The thing is, you cannot forgive someone who hasn't admitted they did anything wrong. You know, so you can't get forgiveness from the public because he's never admitted it. I mean, he's got a good following on TikTok and his social media now, but you can't really, but that maybe a lot of them are young people who don't really remember the whole sort of shebang. You know, it's hard to how do you forgive somebody who hasn't even admitted anything that's wrong? And when you put it all together and you look at the fact that he left his house before the ambulance had even arrived, he tried to say that those injuries of Stuart's occurred in the morgue at the hospital. You know, all these things that he's done haven't helped, have they? And then to expect forgiveness from the public when you've not even admitted you've done anything, how can you?
The Sun's coverage was very negative about him. The dead body, he should be in jail, he fled the scene, he fled the country, what's he doing on telly?
Michael Barrymore may be firmly ensconced in the Big Brother house up there, which you can see in the distance, but out here in the real world, a storm is brewing.
We had an opportunity here. The game was on, wasn't it? It was all about publicity, basically upstaging Michael Barrymore's appearance. We head straight over the road to the gatehouse at Big Brother House. We clearly thought, you know, that they're going to let us in, and yeah, of course, it didn't quite work that way. They didn't want us there, did they? We had all the security there. They were in panic mode. No, you're not coming in.
The show's producers, unsurprisingly, didn't allow Mr. Lubbock to meet Michael Barrymore in person. And Mr. Barrymore, of course, hoped there's a...
Now, I think, you know, he started off all jovial, didn't he, in the house, and then you soon got to see the real Michael. I think you got to see the snarky side of him. Like you do, you get to see the real people in the end. So I was just thinking that poor father, Terry Lubbock, Stuart's poor dad, and all the fight that he's done over the years, and of course now he had to give up the fight because he died. I bet Michael had a little party that night. I bet he had a little bit of Charlie, little bit of champagne, that night, didn't you, Michael?
Appearance in this show would prove something of a resurrection in his fortunes, but tonight it appears that his past has come back to haunt him.
You're a trembling bird, I can see. And
Well, because I'm fed up with being kicked around like a bleeding ball all the time.
Yeah,
I've
you
had
know,
enough.
but he's marked.
If I was guilty of anything, I'm the one who's got an answer to me first, right?
Yeah, now this is Pete Burns he's talking about. He was another sad case because, Pete Burns is a singer, you know, had that very famous song, You Turn Me Right Round, Baby, Right Round. I think he was a bit of a one-hit wonder, wasn't he? But then he had so much plastic surgery. I don't know why. He was a very handsome guy. You know, whether he wanted to look more like a woman or not, I don't know what it was. But it all went wrong, didn't it? His lips and everything. It was very sad. And he died, young, really, shortly after this. So he was ill-fated.
Yeah. I have to be honest with me first. And no, I haven't done nothing. I haven't hurt anybody.
As it went on, the public were actually warming to him.
Who here likes Michael and thinks he's fantastic? This young lady's very keen.
I just feel really sorry for him. I just want to go in there and give him a big hug. He just needs a hug and some love.
The thing is, though, Michael Barrymore...
Oh, my God! Russell Brand! This is what I said to you. There's all these blasts from the past coming up now. How sad is it that most of the people that we're seeing, because Max Clifford was in it somewhere, but I might have missed that going through it the second time. But Max Clifford definitely makes an appearance somewhere in this documentary. Now we've got Russell Brand. We've had Martin Bashir. Oh my God. You know, it's like these TV companies, ITV, etc., they're just full of people that are now being called out for things that they did. Here we've got Russell Brand now. Another persona non grata now.
One of the greatest entertainers this country's ever produced. Let's be honest about it. He is. No, he is. And he got a bit over his head. He made a few mistakes like we've all done. We've all done things a bit naughty that we shouldn't have done in the past.
We've all done things a bit naughty that we shouldn't have done. Oh my God, there was a dead man in his swimming pool, for God's sake. Oh God, honest to God, you know, sometimes you just think people are so thick.
And at the end of the day, it takes a lot of guts to come back to a country that hates him.
He was very funny. We were getting phone calls from the readership that, you know, they love this man and they want him back in their lives. For a newspaper to then say, well, you know, we're going to carry on writing horrid stories, you know, it's not a good business decision, really, is it?
Hello, darling.
Hello.
I think Michael Barrymore is magic. As far as I know, he wasn't found guilty.
Yeah.
And this is a wonderful
Oh, Russell's sticking up for him, of course.
opportunity for him to come out and face the public. He's showing everyone that he's a fighter.
Guess what? We have a winner, and you chose them. You are live.
The paper flipped to, well, actually, let's talk more about Michael and the good things about Michael.
Michael, you have finished second. Please leave the Big Brother house.
Gosh, I'd forgotten that he came second, actually. So that's really good. Yeah, she was going out with someone. Wasn't she going out with Preston or somebody? Anyway, is she Chantal? I can't remember. I haven't watched it. I mean, this is years ago, but I did watch this series, but I can't remember her name. But it's funny, isn't it? Don't remember her and she won, but remember him more. But I didn't remember he'd come second, so he did well, didn't he?
My deputy editor called me in and said we were going to be doing a big buy-up with Michael when he left the house. He came out on a real high. He really, really was so excited. I think he felt this was it. My role was to go down and talk it all through, and the deal was around 50,000.
It's quite something, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, I'm blown away, honestly.
The paper wanted a meeting between Michael and Terry as a big part of the buy-up. I think Terry was paid 2,000.
They said I had the chance of meeting Michael Barrymore. Are you up for that? I said, of course. We drove to where Michael Barrymore was staying. Big hotel, top drawer place.
We'd agreed with both of them that the meeting between them for an hour would be private. I just remember us all standing outside the corridor, pacing up and down. How's this going to go? And we were expecting fireworks. We thought we'd hear raised voices. And then we started to hear laughter.
He was a nice guy.
Oh, God.
I couldn't believe how matey he was. He kept jawing about his life, where he'd been, for about an hour. I think I put up with this. And I said, Michael, we've got to get down to what happened to my son.
Do you feel like you got any answers from that meeting?
No. It was small talk.
Terence Lubbock, ushered by his son newspaper minders, is back in Harlow today after an extraordinary weekend. He came face to face with Michael Barrymore, and the two spoke for the first time about the tragedy that has marred both their lives for the last 5 years.
I don't blame you, Michael.
Did you feel like you've been sort of turned over?
No, not at all. Forgive Michael, whatever. It's still the front page, you know. In the bigger picture, it was a good idea.
I thought you met with Michael Barrymore to try and sort out something.
I have indeed, but I'm afraid that was Barrymore's ball game entirely, and I was putting my head in the lion's mouth, so to speak. I was taking a chance, and it was...
Now, this poor guy, so he was paid £2,000. Yeah, I remember the two men that may have had something to do with his son's death. One was paid £60,000 and one was paid £30,000. And this guy was paid £2,000. I don't think his publicist did very well with him there. He could have commanded so much more money, you know, and I'm sure money don't matter to him. It don't bring his son back. But this guy looks like he could do with some money, you know, for his health, for his, just to make his life more comfortable. And that's what he deserves to have a comfortable life. His life's been wrecked by what happened to his son. It's consumed his life. And they paid him £2,000. Oh my God. Just take the piss, don't they, really?
Really speaking, it was a total setup on Barrymore's side.
I think Michael had always wanted to do it. He'd always wanted to speak to this man. It was like a laying of a ghost, really. Now he was going to go back on telly and become a big star again. We can sing.
Oh, I'm Robin.
My name is Michael Barrymore, and I'm thrilled to be here. She started.
I think he really thought he was going to get another TV show.
Michael Barrymore is definitely back.
And then wham, suddenly, you know, it's announced by Essex Police. They're going to re-investigate it all.
Michael Barrymore says he welcomes a new investigation into the death of a man whose body was found at his Essex home 5 years ago.
Yeah, you're recording? Yeah. So I'm going to read it because I just want to be precise about it as well, and then we'll take it from there, if you don't mind. Is that okay with you?
That's absolutely fine. Yeah.
Fine, thank you. I do hope the police have made a breakthrough. I sincerely do. This story has been too seductive in the past, and I have had to endure extraordinary and preposterous accusations. And perhaps now the media, particularly the tabloids, will consider their tone and also try to consider the proper facts rather than heating up sensation and innuendo. Okay.
First of all, the first question, just on some of the press coverage today. There are reports in the News of the World and allegations of a cover-up in the house that night, and a suggestion that maybe Mr. Lubbock hadn't drowned at all. What's your response to those claims?
Well, my response to those claims is that is absolutely preposterous, and that is changing the whole spectrum of what happened at all. I mean, the police investigated it. There is no evidence to support that whatsoever.
That's the problem, no evidence. So there is internal injuries are some sort of evidence, surely.
We're actually at the cemetery where Stuart's buried, filming for the Tonight programme. We got a phone call from Essex Police saying that they arrested 3 guys on the suspicion sexual assault, rape and murder of Stuart Lubbock.
Once he was an A-list celebrity, tonight he is a murder suspect. Michael Barrymore and 2 others have been questioned by police over the death of Stuart Lubbock.
They're also suspected of serious sexual assault.
John Kenny and Justin Merritt are also being held. The police here say that they do have 18 new leads, and they say that they're determined to get to the bottom of what happened to Stuart Lubbock.
Mobbed by reporters and camera crews, Stuart Lubbock's father Terry arrived back at the family home.
Are you pleased about the arrest?
Very pleased.
It was as if he'd won the lottery that day. He was highly elated. He thought we were actually getting somewhere now, and this was a major turning point.
Oh, bless him. Yeah, so finally, 3 of them were arrested.
I don't think it's hit me at the same time, and At this moment in time, I feel like I'm on pause and I'm waiting.
Hey, come here. Sorry, wait a minute. Come here. Tia. Here. Come on. Come here. Sorry, I'll play that back again because you won't have heard much of that. Come on, you've been good so far. Shush. Let's go back to where we were. Let's try again.
Barrymore's released with the two others, Merritt and Kenny. Not good.
Michael Barrymore slipped out of Harlow police station, apparently hiding inside the back.
Changing the whole.
Stuart Lubbock.
They're also suspected of serious sexual assault.
John Kenny and Justin Merritt are also being held. The police here say that they do have 18 new leads, and they say that they're determined to get to the bottom of what happened to Stuart Lubbock.
Mobbed by reporters and camera crews, Stuart Lubbock's father Terry arrived back at the family home.
Are you pleased about the arrest?
Very pleased.
It was as if he'd won the lottery that day. He was highly elated. He thought we were actually getting somewhere now, and this was a major turning point.
I don't think it's hit me at this moment in time, and at this moment in time, I feel like I'm on pause and I'm waiting for the charge. That's the goal. Then my job will be done.
Oh.
Michael Barrymore has been held for questioning at Harlow police station all day.
Essex police have been given a further 12 hours to question Michael Barrymore and two other men.
Michael is fully cooperating with the police in their inquiries. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
And we waited and waited, and the next thing, Barrymore's released
No.
with the two others, Merritt and Kenny. Not good.
Michael Barrymore slipped out of Harlow police station, apparently hiding inside the back of this black Mercedes. For Essex police, the case remains an unsolved murder.
The CPS, the Crown Prosecution Service, has adjudicated that there is currently insufficient evidence to proceed against any of the individuals for either Stuart's death or his injuries.
I blame.
So not enough evidence. You know, it's just so frustrating. But, you know, but anyway, it finished his career off again. That's one thing that happened.
The police. The police at the scene messed up.
Yeah.
So big.
We did make mistakes early on in terms of the crime scene.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the witnesses were saying that they thought it was a drowning, a tragic accident.
It was treated as a drowning, and the crime scene was never, you know, treated as such, was it? People walking all over everything. So that thing that was in the pool that the forensic guy said might have been the thing that caused the injuries was never tested. Nothing was ever, you know, it wasn't ever. So all the mistakes happened at the beginning. It's hard to come back from that.
We probably believed it at that point.
The first police on the scene did not do their job properly. An independent investigation has established. The damning report says that blood found on Stuart Lubbock's boxer shorts, towels and a robe was not promptly investigated.
An apology won't bring his son back, but the admission by Essex police that they bungled the investigation into Stuart Lubbock's death provided some satisfaction for his father Terry.
I'm afraid they've let me down big time, and they've let my son down big time.
Yeah, I mean, I am the fifth SIO that's been involved in this case. My responsibility now is to review the evidence, to move it forward. The scene was secured, but not to the standard that we would expect. hence the reason that people were allowed back in there. And we know that items have now gone missing. Throughout the investigation, there have been suggestions there was a cover-up. Michael Brown, who was Michael Barrymore's PA at the time, was wrongfully allowed back into the scene where he was seen to be sort of tidying up some items. After we'd managed to photograph the scene, those items had gone missing and we'd never seized them. It was a handle from a cupboard from an outhouse and also a pool thermometer.
So what happened to the pool thermometer? Where did that disappear to?
So what's your explanation of it?
That they've been removed to hide evidence. Stuart was assaulted quite possibly in the jacuzzi and then either died in the jacuzzi or went unconscious, and then to make it look like a drowning, thrown in the swimming pool. I believe very much that Stuart Lubbock was raped and murdered that night.
Gosh.
Somebody at that party.
That's quite emotional, isn't it, to hear him actually say that? The police officer, the SIO say that. You know, to actually say it is quite emotional just for me. God knows how his dad felt. But he probably felt vindicated because his dad had been saying that for years and no one was listening to him.
He knows what happens. That is completely and utterly a fact. The key to bringing people to justice definitely sits with the 8 people that were there.
Gosh. So Stuart's dad is now in a care home. So when we've seen him talking, well, say now, he's died now, but he ended his years in a care home, bless him. He had a stroke. As I say, his life was consumed by this whole thing. And you know what? Your life would be consumed, wouldn't it? You would never accept, this is your son. You would never accept it.
The entertainer Michael Barrymore is at the High Court this afternoon claiming compensation from Essex police. The 65-year-old claims his arrest on suspicion of rape and murder a decade ago had a devastating impact on his career and earnings.
Who are you? I'm Joe Mander from ITV London.
Hello, ITV London.
Hi.
Hello, Joe Mander.
Are you happy with what's
well, I was really confused at a lot of it, to be quite honest, but...
Michael Barrymore's legal team say that the case against him was weak at best. They had no right to make that arrest in the first place.
What's your name? I'm Nick. How long since I've been on the scene? Right, all done.
BBC 5 Live.
Let's get the latest BBC News then on 5 Live. Michael Barrymore will only get nominal damages. He was hoping for a payout of more than £2 million. Essex Police challenged the amount and won its appeal.
It's a great day for Terry, a bad day for Michael Barrymore. How you doing, mate? All right?
Yeah.
Good to see you.
How you doing?
Fantastic, mate.
You looking well?
Not too bad, sorry.
This guy's breaking my heart. He's just such a nice guy, and that'll be what Stuart was. Just a young, impressionable guy, head turned by the fact he was going back to Michael Barrymore's house.
It wasn't a good move for Barrymore to start this whole thing off.
No.
What's come out in open court as well, there's things there we didn't know about, we know about now.
Oh, yeah. The shit has hit the fan.
The shit is certainly hit the fans. It's good to see you smiling again anyway, mate.
Ah.
This is Lord Levison's judgment from the court case.
Yeah.
There was reasonable grounds both to suspect Mr. Barrymore of committing an offence, and it was necessary to arrest him.
Yeah. So he tried to sue for damages, Michael Barrymore, for his arrest, but he wasn't successful.
Essex Police produced a window of opportunity report. This consisted of an analysis of the movements of those in the house to ascertain who had the time and the opportunity to have been responsible for Mr. Lubbock's death. It identified a time when Mr. Barrymore left his bedroom to fetch swimming shorts as the last opportunity before Mr. Lubbock was found in the pool.
Fucking hell. Are they still in the water? Like, we've got him out. You've got to know that we've been able to do any resuscitation on him. Is he breathing? Resuscitation ain't working. I don't know how long he's been there.
The judge.
Yeah, it didn't sound like they were trying any resuscitation, did it? You know, that Justin Merritt is saying, nah, you know, and he's, fucking hell. You know, and he said, oh, do you want to try some resuscitation on him? He's just like, oh, no, it's no good. He wasn't, he knew he was dead. He's as, you know, to me, he knew there was no point in trying to resuscitate him. How did he know that?
Judgment is clear. The other two men capable of the attack on Stuart are Barrymore's ex-boyfriend, Jonathan Kelly, and Justin Merritt.
There's a party going on and someone's just gone out and banged him.
The judge concluded that there was clear evidence of a violent, penetrating assault, which may have been anal rape of a straight man, and Mr. Barrymore was one of only 3 men who could have committed that assault. That's dynamite.
Yeah.
These are facts that Barrymore cannot hide behind anymore.
Oh, this guy, my heart's breaking for this guy.
It's a bit weird, just like I've got my back to this, like, you know. Oh, they're French. Hello.
So 6 months later, he appeared on Piers Morgan's Life Stories on ITV. It must be awful for the father to watch these things.
You talk me through what happened that night. People were drinking, taking drugs.
They were all having drinks. They said, oh, can we go in the jacuzzi? So I said, yeah, I've got to put the lights on because otherwise you won't see where we're going. And then I went out there and had a joint. And as we walked out, I looked down and there's a Stuart floating in the pool. And whether it's floating, when you see that, it's a very surreal thing to see.
But let me ask you this, Michael. How do you think Stuart died?
I think he drowned.
Can't believe it, can you? You just can't believe it.
That family deserve proper answers, okay? No parent should have to bury their young. I had nothing to do with what happened to Stuart, and I have to live in hope that somehow, somewhere, there will be an answer.
I hope so. Yeah. Oh, he was booked with, I've forgotten about that actually, yeah, Dancing on Ice. So in response to this documentary, his solicitors say it is more credible that Stuart Lubbock's anal injuries were caused by an accident, possibly by slipping and striking the pool edge. Oh, yeah. So he probably just fell over and just slipped straight onto that pool thermometer, didn't he? Do you know, look, there's that man, poor Stuart. He was definitely RAPD'd and murdered. Maybe they didn't mean to kill him, I don't know, or just it happened and then they tried to cover it up. And Michael Barrymore, in my opinion, and this is only my opinion, everyone's got an opinion, he knows exactly what's happened. Those 3 men that were arrested, the police arrested them for a reason. Maybe they thought they'd crack, or one would start, one would sort of tell on another, because sometimes that's what happens, isn't it? But it didn't happen. So unfortunately, because the scene wasn't secured, there's no evidence. There's evidence of what happened to Stuart, but there's not evidence of who did it to him, and that's a shame. But do you know what? They might have escaped justice in this world, but they won't escape it in the next, that's for sure. He says he left the scene before the ambulance arrived in order to avoid the media. Do you believe that?
Just one wall of silence. Nobody will come forward from that.
Now, this is Stuart's brother, and he's, quite young. He doesn't look too clever either, does he? So it's had this terrible effect on this family.
I said yes. I just want to move on. I just get on with my life. I'm just hoping that somebody might come up with a clue as to what happened there that night.
Oh. Ay, ay, ay. No comment.
It's not about Stuart anymore. He's been completely lost in this story. But it's just about Barrymore. The stories that are getting told that are not true.
So Mike Brown, Michael Barrymore's former personal assistant, denies any involvement in the cover-up or that he removed evidence from the crime scene. But we just heard the SEO in charge of the case now saying that definitely things had been removed. So I know who I believe.
If I try hard, I can think of Stuart as a child, as a person, as a man. If I try hard, but it's very, very hard because this thing is so big that it smothered everything that was good about my son Stuart.
Oh.
I feel exhausted. I feel exhausted.
Oh.
But it is still in me to carry on.
Oh, bless.
How can a father dismiss the questions that have got to be answered about my son's murder?
Oh.
So peaceful. I love you, Stuart. I love you very much.
Oh. Gosh. Another news thing you're investigating. Wow. £40,000 reward. Well, the thing is, the police now are openly saying that he was RAPD'd and murdered, openly saying it. So that's unusual for the police to say that unless they're certain, isn't it? Even though they obviously haven't got enough evidence for the Crown Prosecution Service to let them, to take the charges further, because the last thing they'll want is for it to go to a court case and he's found innocent and then they can't try him again. But it seems to me that the police are pretty much convinced. It's unusual for the police to say that openly. So the thing is, if they're saying openly that he was RAPD'd and murdered, it has to be someone who was at that party, doesn't it? Has to be. I think they all will know, definitely. Oh, so I don't know about you, but I found that very interesting documentary. And, not only for Stuart's case, of course, but for the things that came up that were sort of relevant to the Nicola Bulley case as well, about the forensic reports. So, yeah, now, of course, Terry is no longer with us. Terry, he has died. I hope he's at peace. He didn't get much peace, did he, through the last part of his life. I hope Stuart's brother is okay, because he seemed to be suffering as well. The thing is, everybody suffers in these sort of cases. And, Michael Barrymore, if he's innocent, he's suffered as well. But, I'm not saying he did do that to Stuart, but he definitely knows more about it than he's letting on, personally. So, hi, Geordie lass. Just finishing off now, I'm afraid. You've got a lot to catch up with, though. Okay, so very interesting. And the thing is, although, Michael in one way has got away with it, or got away with knowing about it, as I say, I'm not saying he did it. I'm just saying I feel that he knows more, than he's letting on. He didn't deal with it very well. Well, I don't know if there was a good way to deal with it. But, of course, he lost his career about it. But just going to have a look at, because he's on TikTok. He's got bloody 3 million followers, I think, on TikTok. Let's have a look. Yeah, 3.6 million followers on TikTok. And he just puts like little, like TikTok people do, little short videos. Let's have a look. Oh, this is the sort of video he puts on for his, let's have a look at this. For his 3.6 million followers. Good God. These are the sort of videos he puts on. Not really sure what this is supposed to be, but there you go. That's where I'm going wrong on TikTok. I need to do these kind of videos, obviously. Listen, we always like people better when there's a dog involved. But he met her.
Morning, everyone. I've just woken up. Look at this.
It was his 73rd birthday. Well, Stuart didn't get to the end of
Sleep well delicious.
I'll have to come off this because it's got music on and they'll get me for copyright for that. But yeah, so you get the idea. You can go and follow Michael Barrymore on TikTok if you like. He's certainly appealing to people to get that many followers. 3.6 million followers on TikTok. So he's found a way of expressing himself. So there you go. Good. Don't know about his YouTube. Let's have a look at his YouTube. God, imagine having... I feel I'm doing quite well with, I can't remember, about 700 followers I've got on TikTok, or just slightly less. Mind you, I don't really go on TikTok. I don't really understand TikTok. But yeah, I've picked up a few followers here and there. I need to do more with that really. Well, you know, it's on the list. It would be great if I could get up to 3.6 million followers, either on YouTube or on there. Let's have a look at his YouTube. I don't know what he does on YouTube. He does vlogs. So he's got 49,000 subscribers on YouTube. I can show you that, because trouble with TikTok videos is there's always music on them, and that YouTube doesn't like it. Vlogs. So he's doing.
Morning, everyone. Well, I'm on my way to do my weekly shop at Marks and Spencer's. I'm going to get the mains there for the week, and then I'll get all the other bits from Tesco. That's my usual way of doing things.
So there you go. He's got 85,000 views on that video, just saying that his 15-minute video saying he's going shopping and what he's going to buy. So, you know, it's like, well, why not? Good for you. Eating Pepe's chicken. It's got 23,000 views. I don't like eating on stream. It's like, can't talk and eat at the same time, can you? Heat wave in London. Someone left this at my front door. Kicked out of my own home. So, yeah, he's found a way. I think he's someone like Michael. He does, what's the word? He does need, you know, adulation, or he needs to be performing. That's part of his character. Oh, I had 5 days at Five Guys today.
Morning, everyone. Well, I'm just setting Laura down. She's
Oh,
got a little
Five
chew
Guys.
there, and I'm going to go.
Oh, there's that little dog now. It's got bigger.
Go out shopping and start another day. I can't wait. It's a bit rainy outside. Why am I like this?
Huh.
Goodbye, Laura.
Oh.
Okay, see you later.
Beautiful dog.
Won't be long, babe. Bye-bye.
So yeah, so that's obviously I'm going wrong somewhere along the line. He's just doing these little videos saying he's going shopping, he's giving the dog a treat, and he's got all these subscribers. Oh dear me. Yeah, M&S bragging. Yeah, he does need, exactly. He needs attention. He is a narcissist. He cannot survive without it. But he's found a way through social media, and well, you know, what can you say? But people like him, obviously. I mean, that's a lot on TikTok, isn't it? 3.6 million followers. On TikTok. I mean, that is a lot of people, isn't it, that are watching his videos. So there you go. Whereas in the meantime, Stuart and his dad Terry and his brother, they've, like, you know, listen, I'm not saying Michael hasn't suffered because of this whole situation. Of course he has. And you know, if he's innocent, it's awful. But the thing is, he's still responsible for what happened at his house, and I think he must know what happened. But anyway, hope you found that as interesting as I have. As I say, whether Stuart will ever find proper justice, I don't know. Hopefully one day, but the police are still investigating, and they're making no bones about the fact that they believe that Stuart was RAPD'd and murdered. And so one of the, or at least one of the people there at that party, which was only 8 people, knows it, did it, and the others probably know about it. Okay, I'm going now. I'll see you really soon in the next video. I'm just going to put my banner on. Now, please don't forget to like this video if you found it interesting or informative. And please subscribe if you're not subscribed already. I think I'll do, more of these things. There's so much to talk about, isn't there? It's like it never ends, really. I was sort of torn between about 3 different things to talk about today. But when I found this video and I watched it, I found it so interesting myself. I thought that probably my chatters would as well. So yeah, I know some people have been saying that they've not been getting notifications. I don't know why that is, but make sure you've got your notification bell on. And the other thing is, when you subscribe, there's a like and subscribe, and then there's a little bell. If you press that little bell, it will say notifications either off, all, or personalized. You need to have it on all. Make sure you've pressed all notifications. Because the thing is, then you'll get a notification every time a video comes out, and then it's up to you. But you don't have to watch it, of course. I think if you do anything like what I do with the people I'm subscribed to, it comes up, the notification comes up, and you look at it and you think, is that likely to be something I'm interested in or not? Or with some channels, I go onto it, whatever, because I think it ought to be interesting just because it's on their channel. And then you make your decision whether you watch it or not. But to make sure you don't miss a notification, you do have to not only press the bell, but then make sure you tick that you want all notifications. Okay, thank you so much. I'll see you really soon in the next video. Now I can't put on the song at the end because I'm on the free StreamYard. They don't let you do anything. They're really tight. You can't put on your songs. You can't put up your pictures. You can't do anything. But they're quite expensive now to go on to the full thing. But I will eventually. Anyway, thank you again. I'll see you really soon in the next video. Thank you, Admit, for being a member for 7 months. Thank you so much. And may your God go with you. Bye.